Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Dauann, and I'm the product marketing manager here at Xactly. I first want to welcome you and thank you all for your time out of your day to join our event. A few housekeeping items before we get started. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll notice a couple of items. There's a group chat available, as well as a button for Q&A submission. So if at any point during this presentation you have a question, please feel free to pop it into the Q&A, and we'll take your questions at the end. Additionally, this event's going to be recorded, and we'll be sharing the recording after the presentation. Also, we're giving away a pair of earpods. So at the end of this webinar, we'll announce the winner. So stick around for that. So today's theme is forecasting your future with the ability to predict real revenue. We're going to talk about the pitfalls of relying on gut instinct and traditional methods to call your number. And then we're going to touch on how a lack of confidence, expertise, and modern best practices relate to those pitfalls. We'll then go over what you may be missing from your current forecasting processes in the areas of merging analytics and AI with your gut instinct. And lastly, we're going to take a look at what those best practices look like. So I want to get started with a poll question, which you can answer within the poll tab on the right. So the question is, how do you manage and visualize your forecasting solution? Is it a manual homegrown system, an automated forecasting solution, spreadsheets, or BI tools? And we'll check back on the results shortly. So let's dive in a little bit. So when talking to sales and RevOps leaders, one of the biggest challenges they mention is the lack of objective data and a single source of truth that leads to subjectiveness and biases at every level of the organization. When data is old and scattered, leaders are stuck with static systems and reports. They lack the ability to really analyze and dig into data. And that leads them to risk missing potential revenue opportunities and identifying risks in critical deals, or how to optimize opportunity stage progressions to achieve quota. Those that are still using manual or subjective sales forecast methods are increasingly at risk of being left behind. So organizations can have a ton of data from a lot of different sources. That data can be analyzed and decisions can be made from it, but are they the right decisions? Are these decisions being done efficiently and effectively? And do you trust them? That's the real question. So we have found that just 45% of sales leaders and sellers have confidence in their sales forecasting accuracy. Consolidating the data and agreeing across teams on what's most accurate is one of the biggest challenges. And only 6% of CEOs are confident that they're going to make their number, which is mind-blowing when you actually sit down and weigh everything that goes into it. In addition to this lack of confidence, a majority of companies are currently producing highly inaccurate sales forecasts. So just 9% of companies provide a forecast within 5% of their actual revenue results. So while the data is prevalent, its actionable insights are hard to come by. So all of this available data doesn't seem to be making organizations feel any more comfortable with their forecasts. And really, the disconnect lies in the failure to align tools, strategies, and approaches to sales forecasting required by fast-changing sales environments. So traditionally, using gut instinct has been a prominent factor in determining what sales thinks is going to close, but that just is not working by itself today. And so what we're going to discuss is how you can still use that gut instinct, but molding it with analytics based on historical data and strengthening that with artificial intelligence is kind of that next step to take to drive accurate forecasting and predictable revenue. So really, driving toward an accurate forecast with the right solution helps you deal with the barriers and twists and turns along the way. And I now want to turn it over to Stephanie Schall, Xactly's Global Forecasting Solution Strategist. And Stephanie, thank you for joining today. let me stop the share real quick. I want to talk a little bit about, what are the ramifications of using methods that aren't modern and aren't supported by the latest technologies. I summarize the challenges of relying on gut instinct and dated processes, but can you explain and expand upon this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. When I think of, getting to an accurate forecast and the path to get there, I can't help but think about like traveling as a kid. I'd go with my parents when I was younger, and I'm going to date myself here. And I could be the navigator. So we would have the paper map, you'd unfold the big accordion map, or you had your map book, but we would chart the path. We didn't have any insights. And sometimes we would even need to stop for directions, which my dad hated. And so I think about when I travel today with my family, we don't pull out the map. Sometimes just if you're feeling nostalgic, you might take a road trip with the map. But we use Waze. There's so much technology out there. We use Waze. So it gives me all kinds of insights to be able to travel and chart that path. It helps me understand the most efficient route to be able to get, if we're going to Florida, to be able to get to Florida so we can get to the beach fast. Being able to understand warnings that exist that are going to be in our way. Is there traffic that we're going to run into? Are there potholes on the road? Is there a car up ahead on the side that's going to impact our ability to go through? Risk is the big thing. I love Waze because I tend to have a lead foot. And it helps me know when I've got a police officer up ahead that's taking radar. So I can make the adjustment in real time, slow down, and I'm still headed that way. Or let's say there's traffic that we're running into, and it's like, if you don't take this exit, then you're not going to get to your destination on time. You are going to show up late. Which could be a problem. And so being able to understand all of those things as we're driving makes it so much easier to travel today, whether I'm in town and I just want to get around traffic, or if I'm traveling 1,000 miles, I want to understand what the best way to get there is. So when I think about selling today, and we have conversations all the time with sales leaders, sales ops, rev ops, and it's so surprising the number of organizations that are still in spreadsheets. The challenge with this is that you don't have the information you need. It is difficult to be able to understand, what's changed, to be able to understand the true health of the opportunities. How strong are my deals? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the potholes up ahead? Or where's the police officer, the risk in the deal that's gonna sideline this deal and prevent it from coming across the line this quarter? Being able to get those insights, you don't have that from a spreadsheet. So what ends up happening, kind of the ramifications of that is your managers become taskmasters. They're constantly running after reps, update your opportunities. They need to be updated by this time, but reps can derail conversations. So you can be in a forecast call or a pipeline review call, and a rep can easily, when you're in spreadsheets, be like, oh, I updated the wrong spreadsheet, or I did the updates and you must have pulled the Excel spreadsheet a half hour after. And so I did everything, but it's just not there. And so they can derail the conversation and keep you from having the conversations you need to have. So those conversations turn into compliance reviews versus strategy calls. So you spend less time really figuring out what needs to happen to move the deals forward so we can close more deals so that I can truly understand that path to hit my target. I can adjust and know, there's opportunities that aren't going to close, and know what those deals are ahead of time. A lot of the sales leaders that I talk to that are kind of apprehensive of moving into the technology that is available today is because it's like, listen, I've honed these skills my entire career. Like, it's an art. There's so much wisdom that I have from the grind. I can come to an accurate forecast, you know, and you probably can. The challenge is what did you miss along the way? How many deals? I always look at, like, man, if you're successful forecasting accurately in spreadsheets, man, how much are you leaving on the table? How much revenue? How many deals that slipped through the cracks that you weren't aware of, or warning signs that you didn't find out about until it was too late? Not being able to bring the science in, that it's your buddy, it's your, your peanut butter and chocolate, your Reese's peanut butter cup, that it's like, for you, that it's the wisdom is that chocolate, the science behind it. And then you've got the peanut butter, which is, or the wisdom is the art. And then the science is that data that's just pulling up close to you, helping you understand what is in front of you, so that you can truly understand what your target is, what your path is to hit your goal. And you can understand when any risk is going to get in the way, so that you can make the adjustment and continue to be able to hit that number. And so those are things that get in the way, is risk, and not being able to understand what the true health of your opportunities are, not truly being able to understand what's going to close and when is it going to close and what can I count on. Leave sales leaders frustrated, and really just like banging their head against the wall, wondering why does this have to be so difficult?
Yeah, it looks like, judging from the poll question, we have a couple of votes for still using spreadsheets and a couple that still use BI tools. So I think some of our attendees can probably relate to what you just went over, and I think the navigation analogy was perfect. And I'm embarrassed to admit that my parents used a paper map like 3 years ago. So no, that was perfect. Thank you for sharing your experiences and expertise. And I think a good next step would be to show what a modern solution looks like and how to go about using those analytics. And is there a demo that we can view to get an idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull this up. All right. So really what I'm going to do is kind of speak to how we do it here at Xactly, and be able to kind of help you understand, if you're using Waze in the form of a forecasting solution, kind of what those things are, those insights, and the way that you can keep a handle on how we're going to hit that number. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the forecast, and we're looking at this from the VP. And so what I can do is I can see on this left-hand side, this is kind of the destination. This is where we have to get to. And so as I look at this, it's like, I know what number I need to hit. I know what we've won so far. I understand what my gap is. I can see what the total pipeline is. What's the coverage based upon, my quota, based upon our win rate. And then I can get some science that's going to push up against the number. So here's what our quota is. This is what we think we're going to hit. And so to help me kind of understand what's happening. So here's my destination. But one of the cool things is, every single day, every week, your forecast is changing. And so you need to be able to keep your finger on the pulse of what those changes are. So being able to quickly see as our wins come in, great. What's won since last week? How's the pipeline grown or unfortunately shrunk since last week? Or how is the AI changing based upon how our pipeline is building, based upon what's closing, deals that are getting stuck in the pipeline, but helping us get that view of what is expected to come in. Then I can see, what is the pathway that my team is deal backing. So from a deal back perspective, what are the deals that they are expecting to come in? those that my RVPs have pulled into the forecast. And how does that translate across the forecast categories? How much commit is rolling up, best case, pipeline, and ultimately, what does my team believe is going to come in? But right here, other than changes, you're not getting insights into what is happening with those opportunities. Can I trust that these 3.8 million in commit is actually going to come in? So we need to be able to easily dig in to see where's that number coming from? What are the deals that roll up to that number? And be able to understand, can I count on these deals? Are these deals that make sense? Are they deals that have a high likelihood to close? So being able to, look at maybe some of my high risk deals that I need to be aware of. If we click into this Sullivan Tires, you can see that this is has an 18 health score, but it's been committed to the forecast. And so being able to easily look at, what are the accounts, is this a good account? Where's this 18% coming from? How much momentum do we have? In terms of the selling process, are we following our sales methodology? And so being able to easily understand, if I'm a rep, what are the things that I need to do? So it's kind of like the manager being able to tap on the rep's shoulder in time and say, these are the things that need to happen to make this a stronger deal. As you can see, this deal is struggling big time. And so, we haven't followed the methodology. We don't have the momentum in place. It's a multi-threaded deal, but it looks like it's completely stalled. So this rep is either you're crazy having this opportunity in commit, which obviously is the case. But here's some things. If this is a true opportunity, then here's things that need to happen to move this forward. Or this is a deal that needs to be cleaned out and closed. But they can easily see, all right, I need to schedule a next meeting. I haven't followed up with this account. We've had no engagement with the customer. So we can easily understand those things. So then to be able to pull that out of the forecast. If I need to go a layer deeper, then I can click into the opportunity and I have everything at my fingertips that's important to me as a sales leader to understand. What are the emails that are going back and forth? When we're receiving an email, what does that email content look like? Being able to drill in and see what, is it a good email or is it a bad email? Not all emails are created equal. So to just tally the fact that emails are happening is leaving a part of the picture out. Being able to understand what those alerts are so that we can do the hygiene and understand what we should be counting on and what we shouldn't be. So in this, the VP can understand what's happening, understand what deals I want to pull in and don't want to pull into the forecast. And then they can have that roadmap of, here's what you think is going to happen based on what's in the pipeline today. But we have deals that are created and closed within the pipeline or within the quarter that we need to account for. So being able to understand how the manager is going to get to that number. So being able to break that down by month and then being able to have a view into what are those deals that are not created yet, but that based on our historicals, we know that we're going to end up bringing in this data or these opportunities and closing them in quarter. So you have that full view. So then when you look at where you're going, you can have an understanding of, okay, here's what I have in the pipeline today, but for my first month, I want to account for this future pipeline. And then as the VP, being able to understand, okay, the success of my team. So we're triangulating the future data. We're triangulating also historicals. So we're looking at historically, what is your push rate for your commits? what is your individual success? So being able to go down to that rep level or that VP level, based on where you're at and who's forecasting, what is your success over the last 5 quarters? And how does that compare to the company? So you can understand how much value you can be banking on this. So if their commit win rate for individual for this VP is 74%, when I look at the fact that I've got 3.8 million in pipeline, then I can really only account for 74% of that, because that is my success over time. If you see that someone on your team is accounting for 100%, which unfortunately sometimes is the case, or they're accounting for 75%, but maybe their individual number was only 40% for a commit, then being able to have that conversation and understand all the data points, while the AI is also looking at what are you doing currently, and maybe your deals are moving quicker through the cycles. Maybe you're converting the deals sooner. And so looking at how the machine learning is understanding the patterns of these opportunities and not just historicals to drive that understanding, so that you can make the best educated decision, and then have the opportunity across the way that you look at your forecast to model this after the way you're doing it. We have that flexibility to say, okay, well, I do a forecast call. Our VP also does a commit high and a commit low. And we also need to keep our finger on the pulse of those high risk deals that we need to be aware of, so that we can have the conversation in time, so that that path to hit the number is a reality. And so some of the other things that we're looking at as we go through this is, let's say you still have a big gap in your number. All right, well, we can see through linearity, we can see what's going on, but I can also see by risk level, how is my pipeline doing? What are the deals that I can expect to pull in that have a low risk? Here I've got deals expected to close next quarter, 3 low risk deals that I can look at and see what is happening on these opportunities that we can pull into the forecast, that one of these isn't in the forecast today. So that's $100K that we can come up with right now. Look at your medium risk deals to see if your VP says, I need you to come up with 50K this month. This is a great opportunity of how you should be looking at that, to understand what is the health of my deals, what are deals that have great momentum, so that they can pull that in. So it's then allowing you to have all of this data at your fingertips, to be able to be looking at, how your reps are doing, what this looks like from one quarter from quarter to fiscal year, in how you're shaping up for next quarter. But what a lot of organizations are doing now is, where they used to just focus on the quarter. Now what we're doing is they are looking at next quarter. So we want to start looking at what is the data telling us. So what we're able to do here at Xactly Forecasting is we're able to start predicting that next quarter number in the current quarter. So they can start having that view of, all right, here's what my team is rolling up, and they can put their monthly numbers in, so that they can understand what's happening, making sure that we have the pipeline that we need. We can see what our future looks like. How is the pipeline building? So they can start entering that number and being aware of what next quarter looks like now. Because if you have a 90-day sales cycle, if your reps aren't building the pipeline that they need, if they don't have the coverage that's required, then what happens is you are stuck in a terrible situation, because you've got to speed up that process. You've got to discount like crazy, because your reps aren't executing a consistent process like they should be. So with Xactly forecasting, what's going to happen is they're going to be executing that consistent process. It's going to be moving deals forward so that you're not scrambling at the beginning of the quarter, realizing, oh my goodness, we don't have the pipeline that we need. You're understanding what's converting at higher rates so we know what pipeline to go after. And you can track whether you're in this quarter or you're in next quarter. You can track how your team is doing and performing on each of the metrics that you're looking at for your overall forecast. We can be looking at those across the team for each of your team members. So it's an easy way to engage with your forecast calls. My Wi-Fi is having a great day. But this will pop up in just a second. But essentially, this is your ways. So in this, you've got the insight through the health score. You have the warnings through the alerts. You're able to see what's changing as it's changing. The challenge with a BI tool is you've got beautiful visualizations, but the connection to the forecast, being able to hedge the forecast and being able to understand how that's rolling up and drilling in and understanding the health of the opportunity, it leaves you most of the time exporting your data into spreadsheets so that you can manipulate and massage the data. And we want to bring that all in and automate that process so your team can be more efficient, more effective. You can understand where the risk is, have the conversations that you need to be having so you can always understand that path to hit your number and increase that forecast accuracy. That 91% of companies that are missing the mark, Nick, that you talked about at the beginning is like, ouch, ouch. Only 9% of companies are hitting the mark. That's rough, and we can change that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and it's been that way for such a long time too. It's tough to think about. I do want to open it up for a few minutes for Q&A. So if you don't mind, I'll take over the screen share if you're wrapped up with the demo.
Yes, let me share that.
Okay. All right. So yeah, this has been really great insight into what the components are to land at an accurate forecast. And thank you so much for that great demo. One of the main takeaways of this conversation is that it's possible to stop the guessing game. And in order to drive the right insights, the right behaviors, and the right revenue, you need not only a holistic repository of accurate and reliable data, but the right combination of tactics, technology, and data as well. And so I think this slide here is powerful. And companies with accurate forecasts are 10% more likely to grow revenue year over year. And in the current environment, I think a lot of us would take that. And so there have been a couple of questions that have come in the chat. Their first one is there a visualization I can reference to see how my forecast accuracy is trending or improving?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're doing, a lot of our customers, they're looking at, they have a forecast, like the RVP has a forecast, the director has a forecast, the rep has a forecast. So we're comparing that to how the AI is forecasting, how the individual is forecasting, and then ultimately, what do we book so that we can see how that is getting more accurate and how we're getting better as a team, because we want to see that effectiveness across the team, that we're doing better.
Gotcha. Okay, great. The next question was, will you expand on your methodology of using a monthly forecast? And have you seen any improvements by leveraging this?
Yeah, the challenge is between the quarterly forecast is, the VP, the CRO, like they want to understand, when is this going to close? How are we going to hit our number? And the challenge with reps is that they don't always have their expected close date where it should be. They kind of open up the opportunity. What they choose is where it stays. And then they don't usually move it until they hit that date. So it's not giving a good picture of what is expected month 1, month 2, month 3. In most organizations have a hockey stick effect. They close most of their business at the end of the third quarter. Reps are, notorious for waiting until the last second. They hold everything off. And so it's a mad dash to the end. So what that's doing, that monthly forecast, is helping them in the mindset of, you might have a quarterly quota, but you need to be thinking about how you're closing this month 1, 2, and 3, and being able to bring revenue in each of those months. So it's helped us to be able to be more accurate, but also to have a more linear effect on how we're closing deals, being able to close more in month 1 and 2 versus leaving it all for month 3 to come in.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, those were the main two that I saw within the Q&A. So
it looks like there's a couple more that are popping up just recently in the Q&A.
Okay, let me see.
One of them is, thanks for sharing the information. Is it connecting to Salesforce to pull the data? And that's correct. It's a multi-directional integration, and it also allows you to pull in custom objects and custom fields. So we're not just limiting you to standard objects, but allowing you to have the data that you need at your fingertips, and being able to write that back to Salesforce.
Perfect. There were a couple others in here.
Yes.
Joey McDonald. We're a volume-based company which relies on seasonality. We do not have a pipeline. Does this tool assist with forecasting monthly revenue?
Absolutely. So what we do, we have both the opportunity forecast and then we have a revenue forecast. So our data studio is able to bring data in from any source. So what we have a lot of customers in your case doing is they've got the CRM, they've got ERP data. So they want to track either against the contract, in the billings or usage or whatever that may be, or they're looking at the invoices coming in. And so, yes, we're able to provide you that same forecast availability, whether you're doing that on like account forecasting and being able to do your annual plan and then tracking against that by bringing in daily, weekly, monthly billings, invoices, or revenue.
Great. One more question, and then I'll announce the winner of the AirPods. Everybody's been waiting for that. How accurate is the Xactly forecasting AI for highly volatile measurables like elective surgeries? We're a medical device company whose revenues depend upon elective surgery volume.
Yeah, so we base it off of, first of all, your historicals. So your historicals are going to be volatile, and so we're going to see that. When I looked at like, for instance, when I was doing the future pipeline and looking at deals that weren't in the forecast today, we have the ability to model that after different quarters. And so to be able to say, if it's volatile, like we see in Q1, that's always an increase because, or Q4 maybe for insurance because they've hit their high deductible and now it's going to be free or at a much lower cost. And so being able to see what that forecast looks like in Q4, we're gauging that off of your patterns, your history, and what has happened over the last 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 5 quarters. And so you're able to dig in and drill into that seasonality of, I just want to look at Q4 last year to see where we were at.
All right. Thanks, Tom. So after we wrap things up here, we'll be sending out the recording of this event so that you can reference or share within your teams. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to our team at connect@xactlycorp.com, or you can request more information in the top right corner of the screen. We'll also be sending out a link to our Forecasting Fundamentals Guide / Top Use Cases ebook and our brand new forecasting product tours, which will allow you to poke around within our solution. And you can also scan the QR code here to access that use cases ebook as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks again for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. And we look forward to more discussions in the future. Thank you so much.